Hi and welcome to the Studio Marco Primeau. Today we're going to talk about gain staging within a DAW. Before I go, I just want to tell you that next week I plan to do a video about monitoring within Magix Amplitude. Some of you have interfaces that does not have a virtual mixer, so I'm going to address this problem, this difficulty. And also, I'm planning very soon a full mix video. I'm waiting for a license for Amplitude X6, so we will be able to test the plugins included, the new features, and stuff like that. But today, gain staging. Let's go! So we often hear about it or read about it. Gain staging is something that not everyone is used to plan or be aware of when mixing or recording. In fact, it's very simple. Every time your audio signal goes into a hardware or a software, a plugin, mixer, anything that can change the level, then you need to be aware of it and plan and know what healthy levels should go out and in of this unit or this software. If you push the gain of your preamp too high, chances are the converter won't be able to interpret the signal and you will get some artifacts, distortions, and stuff like that. So every time your signal is modified, either by a software or a hardware, there's a chance of degrading the signal or make something better. So that's what is gain staging. Taking a signal and taking care of it all the way through all the steps that it takes so the audio quality will be optimal. That's it. So let's check it into Amplitude Pro X5. Of course, the principles will apply to any DAW. So let's go. So we're gonna try to make this as simple as I can. The first most important level that you should check is your recording level. So if you are recording a microphone, an instrument, or whatever, in your software, any DAW, there's a way to monitor how much signal goes in, and this is what will be recorded as an audio track and a WAV file or other formats. So I already created the project on which I created a track, assigned the right input, which is my mic, and I hit record right here. And now, as you can see, we can't see any levels on the tracks and on the mixer. In Amplitude, and I'm sure there's a way in your DAW if you're not using Amplitude, there's many different monitoring options, and the one that I use the most is this one, no audio monitoring, which means that Amplitude won't redirect any sound out of different output from the master bus unless you create one, and it will show only the peak meters. So right here you see already there's some levels, and also on the mixer. And if I hit record, we're going to check the level on the WAV files, the image of the WAV file. And if I play back, we're going to check the level on the WAV files, the image of the... Okay, this signal is way too hot right now. It would be okay if it's the only thing that I'm recording for this project, but if we add many tracks, the levels will add up and you will cross the 0 dB at the end at the master bus. So you see here the image of the WAV file. You could check this as a level reference, but as soon as you change the volume or the gain on the track, it will change how this level is displayed, and not only on the playback, but on the recording as well. So I'm going to record and change the volume. You're going to see. So this is a test changing the volumes, and you can see that the level shown on the wave file image changes when we change the level of the volume of the track. Okay, but if we put that to, let's say, -6, and we play back, you will see that the volume won't change according to what I did while recording. So this is independent. So what I recommend is keeping the level, the fader of the track at 0 dB, keeping the gain at 0 dB, and change the level that goes in your software via your preamp or the interface. We're going to check that just after. If I play back, you'll see that the volume does not change. So this is a test changing the volumes, and you can see that the level shown on the wave file image changes when we change the level. Okay, so changing the levels on the preamp could be the internal preamp of your interface. In my case, it's the UFX from RME. They have a virtual mixer on which I can choose the level of the included preamp. So there's 4 preamp included in the RMA UFX. Those are the 9, 10, 11, and 12. You can see that the RMA 12 input is the one that I'm using for this mic, and I can lower the volume of the gain, and it will change the gain going in as well. You can see it on the mixer, and going up, I was about at 35. If I go, well, the thing is, this is the most important level of the whole equation. If you cross the 0 dB at this point, entering your interface or within your interface after the preamp going in the converters, the converter won't be able to interpret anything crossing the 0 dB barrier, and you will hear some artifacts. So we're going to test it. If I go further, we're going to test going up to way too hot volume, and then we're coming back to R35 gain of input. And if we recorded that now, I'm going to do the same thing but while recording. I'm going to delete those parts that we don't need. Go from the top. And we're going to hit record. And we're going to go way up with the level. Test, 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 test. This is a test of overdriving the converter. And let's listen. Even if I lower down the object volume or the track volume, you'll see that the distortion will stay there. And we're going to go way up with the level. Test, 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 test. This is a test of overdriving the converter. Okay. So you get the point. Set the gain of your preamp with caution, and the recommended gain level, if you're doing a full band, many tracks, is about -18 dB average, and you can have some peaks around -10 dB, and you'll be okay. In the past, when we were recording on tape, going very near of the 0 dB and even sometimes crossing it was a good thing, because the tape, the way that it writes the sound on the tape, was giving us harmonic distortion and some very warm sound, and that was something that we did with tape. But nowadays in the digital world, don't cross the 0 dB when capturing your audio. All right, let's test what I said earlier. If you have more than one tracks, what happens when you have many tracks, and how the levels will go up on the master bus at the end. So I'm going to record just a tiny bit of the voice. So this is a test of the buildup of many tracks. So let's check the level of this recording. This is a test of the buildup of many tracks. So this was very loud for just one track. And you can see the level as I speak, and I just peaked. If you see the little red line there, it shows that the signal has went over 0 dB. So if we have one track like this is a test of, and if we double it, you'll see at the master bus here, if we only have one, this is a test of the build. And if we add the 4 together, this is a test of. So this will happen as well with different instrument. If you have 10 tracks of drums, 2 of bass, 5 guitars. So there's no need to record everything very hot. Because at the end you will need to lower them to get an healthy level at the master bus. And of course the master bus represent what will be going in a WAV file if you export your project and you want to maybe convert it to MP3 and so on. Another thing to have in mind is if you send your project to a mastering engineer, they will probably ask for something like peaks around -6 dB and an average of -10, -12. But they don't want you to squash the levels with compression and put that very near of 0 dB. The thing is, if you do, if they want to use some dynamic EQ or multiband compressor, they won't have a lot of gain to play with because your headroom is very small. So this is for the input level. Now we're going to check how the levels interact within the DAW. Those principles, as I said, will apply to any DAW. I'm using Simplitude Pro X5. Maybe some little things will be different for your DAW, but the principles are the same. So I've loaded a song called Me and My Crew from Will Events. You can download the tracks if you want to try to mix it yourself. This is a mix I've done maybe about a year ago. Click on the link above if you want to check how I mixed it and how it sounds. The point is to work with a full band recorded tracks and see how the levels goes and how they were adjusted and how they were recorded by professionals. So I'm going to load the mixer, and you can see right away that most of the faders are not at 0 dB, so I lowered the level. I could have done the same with the gain, but of course if you change the gain, you change also the gain that goes into the plugins. So it depends what you want and what kind of sound and what kind of plugin you're using. What you need to check is the main bus, which will be here. It is at 0 dB, and this goes to my master bus, which is lower, so I don't damage my ears. So let's play.
Bible, so get up, shut up, do something other than ripping on the people who be doing it for the love of the upbeat, the deadbeat, the hips out hippie, playing for me with the bucket on the street. Said me and my crew are gonna get through this. Yes, I said me and my crew, ain't nothing to.
So you can see that even though most of the track are very low, and even the drum bus and the other buses, they are not at 0 dB at all. This means that the sum of all the tracks would go over 0 dB if we put them at nominal. So let's try this. We're gonna change the stereo here. So now all the tracks are at 0. There's no plugins. Every gain are at 0 as well. So what we will see is the levels at which the tracks were recorded in a professional studio. So let's see.
Survival. So get up, shut up, do something other than ripping on the people who be doing it for the love of the upbeat, the deadbeat, the hips out hippie, playing for me.
So you see it hits 0 and it crossed over a few times as well. So I'm going to lower the main bus like this and check the levels at which each track were recorded.
Survival. So get up, shut up, do something other than ripping on the people who be doing it for the love of the upbeat, the deadbeat, the hips out hippie, playing for me with the bucket on the street. Said me and my crew are gonna get through it. Yes, I said me and my crew, there ain't nothing too bad when the gloves are bought.
So the target that I was talking about earlier, minus 18 dB or peaks at minus 10 dB, is exactly what they did. Maybe some instrument go over at some point. Maybe on the vocals you see some lines near 0. Of course, vocals are very dynamic, so if you don't put a compressor on the way in, that might happen as well. So now that we learn to be careful with our recording levels and that the audio does not need to be so loud because it adds up in a mix, we're going to check all the ways that the level can change within your DAW. So the first would be, of course, the gain right here, and the fader, which is the output of the channel. So let's play. Okay. And of course, if you send this signal to an auxiliary bus, either a reverb or something else, let's check. Maybe some reverb. Okay, so the signal goes to the auxiliary bus, goes through the effect, and so the auxiliary bus also have the gain and also have a fader, and of course within the effect itself you can maybe change the level. Let's say I put, instead of reverb, I put a compressor or maybe a limiter. So the level can be changed with an effect as well. This is on an auxiliary bus, but of course I can put an effect on the track itself, or many effects. Let's say the real compressor. To avoid surprises, what I like to do is every time I put an effect on a track, I try to bypass it and hear the level difference and adjust it to compensate. So if I listen to this, so although I gain the sound differences that the plugin offer, but I'm not changing the output level of my track, so it builds up and it's out of control on the master bus. So we add the gain, the auxiliary bus, the plugins that can change the levels, the EQ. If you push all the frequency up, it might change the level as well. Let's check. Okay, unless the plugin has an automatic level control that will compensate the input and output levels, some do, it will change the level. So each time you add something to a track, you should check the output level. So the output of my track is going to a sub-mix bus, which is a mix within a mix. And I can control, of course, the level of the old drum with the drum bus, but I can also change the gain, send it to an auxiliary bus, add some effects, EQ, and so that's another way that the levels can change. Let's test it. So I hope this makes more sense to you now. And if you want me to make some tests with hardwares, I have some preamps and compressor. Some have EQ, some have compressor included with the preamp. So I can make some tests and show them to you on a future video. So write down in the comments if something like that is of interest to you. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please click on the like button, consider subscribing, hit the bell to get notifications, put questions and comments or suggestions for future videos in the comments, and share my videos. It's always a great help.